Just weeks ago, as you approached your graduation, several members of the class of 1968 took the time to come back to our campus and to engage in a conversation with the members of the class of 2018. If you were there, you saw something truly special. And if you weren't there, let me just give you some auntie-like advice. Don't sleep on life. Take advantage of opportunities like that come your way in the future because they are rare. We do think after this year's conversation between the members of the class of 1968 and the class of 2018, it may be the beginning of a new tradition where our golden girls are invited back to have that kind of conversation with the class that follows them by 50 years. When we think about them as college students, focusing on the fact that they would have been students between the years of 1964 and 1968, think of what that meant, what they would have seen, what they would have lived through. 1964, we know, was the year that the Civil Rights Act was enacted in this country. That in and of itself is an important reflection when we think that Black people were emancipated in the 1860s, what took 100 years to get an enforceable Civil Rights Act in our law books. They were in college when that central event happened. They were also in college when we won the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And of course, they were college students who just a month before they graduated from Spelman College would see the tragedy of the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They would walk past his coffin as it laid in state in our own sisters' chapel. They are a historic class for what they experienced, for the fight that they engaged in the civil rights era. If you had been in the audience and heard the conversation between members of that class and members of the class of 2018, you would have heard one of them, Dr. Jane Smith, a Golden Girl this year. You would have heard Dr. Smith reflect that as hard as they fought, because Spelman graduates and Spelman sisters are fierce and determined fighters for justice, as hard as they fought as college students, they fully expected the world to look significantly closer to racial justice in the country 50 years down the road. When we think about what you have experienced over the last 4 years as college students between the years of 2014 and 2018, so many years later, we know that our public school systems are as segregated by race today as they were in the 1950s and 60s when they graduated. We know that important parts of the Voting Rights Act that was passed when they were college students have been decimated. We know that the nation, while you were college students, elected a president on the campaign pledge to make America great again, as if what they were fighting for 50 years ago was the moment of greatness in this country and not what they were fighting for. "50 years from now, you will be Golden Girls. You will be back on our campus, sashaying through the arch, and you will be trying to explain to the class 50 years behind you and to your future children and grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and others, what it was like to be a college student during these 4 years. Sometimes we mistake our victories in battle as winning the war. And clearly, although many battles were won when the Golden Girls were college students preparing for graduation just like you, we had not won the war. The question for you, class of 2018, is whether you will help us get there. One thing that we know is that you have been prepared to do it here at Spelman College. So now I urge you to reflect on the fact that as the campaign for the man who will not be named was underway, where was the gender solidarity of the country when women in the country had the opportunity to do something truly historic, to put a woman into the Oval Office for the first time? Does what you learned in your 4 years in college at Spelman tell you that maybe gender solidarity is not yet really a thing? And if it were a thing, wouldn't it look something like the steel-like strength of the Spelman sisterhood that could do something as historic as to elect the first woman president of the United States? We weren't able to accomplish that while you were students, and you will take that fight on with you as you go on into your future lives. You can believe that we will be cheering you on every step of the way.